Carolyn, a recent client of mine, was like many middle-class people who come in to see me. She had some money in bank accounts, which she used for buying groceries, paying the utility bills, and so forth. But for the most part, she saved most of her money over the years in an IRA. Why did she do that? Well, the government made a promise. It said, look, you're going to get a higher interest rate, plus there are these tax advantages to keeping money in an IRA. You'll take it out and there will be some taxes later on when you take money out, but it will be better tax-wise for you to save money that way. And the government has encouraged retirement in using IRAs for exactly that reason. Carolyn came in to see me because her husband, Jim, had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. Carolyn and Jim were worried because they knew it was likely that Jim would eventually need long-term skilled nursing care. She wanted to know, does the rule hold up? Are we okay with our money in IRAs, or is that going to backfire on us because of long-term care costs? Unfortunately, I had to deliver the news to Carolyn that the government in the form of the IRS may have made one promise, but the government in the form of Medicaid and paying for long-term care does not keep that promise. It's a little more complicated. I'm Patrick Cawley with Keystone Elder Law in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, and I want you to know some of the basics of how your IRA will be treated if you need long-term care so that you can make appropriate plans. So the good news for Carolyn is that all of her money in her IRA would be protected from Medicaid. Medicaid, of course, is the way that you pay for long-term care if you can't come up with $14,000 or $15,000 a month of your own money. So middle-class people who will go broke at that rate rely on Medicaid. Medicaid looks at how much money you have. But if it's a married couple, the tax-advantaged retirement account, such as an IRA, of the spouse not needing Medicaid will be completely protected. So it doesn't matter how much money Carolyn has put into that IRA over the years, that will not be held against Jim when he applies for Medicaid to pay for his long-term skilled care. The news is a little bit different for Jim. So his money that is in an IRA, even though the IRS always said, this is good for you, do this. This is tax efficient and will save you money and you'll earn more money for your retirement years. That promise does not hold up when it comes to long-term skilled care for the middle class, because Medicaid, another part of the government, says we're going to count that against you. And that amount probably has to be liquidated. That whole account has to be liquidated, and then it has to go through a process where we as elder law attorneys try to save as close to 100% of that money as possible for the spouse, Carolyn, but we have to actually get in and liquidate the account and deal with any tax penalties for Jim for taking all of the money out of the account. So this is where the promise is not kept up by the government in the form of Medicaid. However, there's some planning that can be done. So if Jim is in the meantime paying for long-term care, he just went in, we're in the process of getting Jim and Carolyn ready for a Medicaid application. Jim's money in his IRA should be used to pay the nursing home until Medicaid kicks in. Why? Because any distributions you make that would normally come with a tax penalty because you're taking the money out of the IRA is lessened by the fact that you get a significant tax deduction for spending a significant amount of your money on medical care, health care. So go ahead and use Jim's money. It has to be liquidated anyway, and we'll get a tax deduction which will lessen the impact of that. So bottom line, Carolyn's money is completely safe in an IRA, but if Jim needs to apply for Medicaid, his money is under the microscope along with everything else that they own when it comes to how much money does Jim have, and therefore does he qualify for Medicaid benefits. So I wanted you to be aware of this distinction between the person applying for Medicaid and the spouse at home who can keep the entirety of the IRA protected. If you have questions about this, I'm Patrick Cawley with Keystone Elder Law. We can be found at KeystoneElderLaw.com. There's a lot more detail that goes into this, but this is a common enough issue that I wanted you to know how IRAs get treated in a Medicaid application for long-term care.